I met my first superhero when I was 6 years old. She was not wearing a cape or tights. She was wearing a $4 dress from Woolworth and Wilco and blue Ked sneakers. Standing all of 4'8", my grandmother may have been small in stature, but she possessed huge superpowers. Growing up in a chaotic household, as I did, with a suicidal father who tried to kill himself 5 times by the time I was 18, an understandably so anxiety-ridden mother, and a by the time he was 14 years old, alcoholic brother, life was not happy in the house I grew up in. Although I am happy to share with you that my brother just celebrated 20 years of sobriety September 18th. Yay, Jimmy. Now, growing up in that household, although it was chaotic, we were lucky to have Grandma's house. Grandma's was an oasis of calm amid the chaos. Grandma nurtured us. She was there for us. And one of the best parts about going to Grandma's was the playground across the street. It had the typical 1970s playground equipment, what I refer to as real playground equipment, not those plastic 3-foot tall slides they have now. This was a steel sliding board, 13 steps up to the top. We would wax it with wax paper until it was extra slick, and then for a really quick ride, you would sit on that wax paper screaming the entire way down, landing on concrete. And we all lived to tell the tale. But the best thing about that playground were the trees. Towering sycamores reaching high into the sky, their branches just beckoning us to climb. And oh, how I wanted to climb that tree. But at age 6, I was more the size of a 3-year-old. I was only 3 pounds when I was born. They thought I would die that very first night and actually had called the priest in to give the last rites, but I had other plans. Still, as a child, I was puny. And at age 6, more the size of a 3-year-old, no matter how hard I willed myself to reach that bottom branch, I just couldn't do it. And then one day, my brother Jimmy took pity on me. I'm not sure exactly why. I think it might have been the second bowl of Fruit Loops he consumed that morning. But he leaned down, cupping my Ked sneaker in his hand, and he boosted me up to that bottom branch. With skinny little arms, I grabbed a hold, and I pulled myself up, and I swung my leg over, and then I reached to the next branch, and I pulled myself up, and the next branch, and I reached, and I pulled myself up, and oh my gosh, there I was in the tree with my brother and all the boys in the neighborhood. I felt super. And that's when Paul Fisk turned to my brother and said, "Hey, Jimmy, let's go to Stevie Fenner's house and watch cartoons. They've got cable." And just like that, they were down out of the tree. And there I was, by myself, up in the tree. And I called out, "Jimmy, Jimmy, wait!" But they were gone. And that's when it dawned on me. I had no idea how to climb down. And then I looked down. That was a big mistake. I'd climbed up a lot farther than I realized, and I did the only thing a 6-year-old might do if she's stuck in a tree. I started to cry. "Oh my goodness, I don't know how to climb down. I don't know how to climb down. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" I worked myself into quite a tizzy. And then I did the only other thing that a 6-year-old might do if she's stuck up in a tree. I called out for help. "Grandma! Grandma! Help!" I don't know if your grandma has the superpower that my grandma had, that supersonic grandma hearing. From the depths of her house, she could hear my desperate cries, and in a flash, she was out on the front stoop wearing her official uniform, the $4 house dress from Woolworth and Wilco, the blue Ked sneakers. "Chrissy, honey, where are you?" "Grandma, I'm up here." "Ugh, now, Chrissy, don't play tricks on your grandma. Where are you?" It took every amount of courage I had to peel my hand away from the tree trunk and wave it out from the branches. She spotted me, striding across that playground with a sense of purpose. She stood under the tree. "Well, Chrissy, honey, climb down." "Grandma, I can't. I don't know how." And then my grandma, ever practical Pennsylvania Dutch. "Ach, now, Chrissy, if you can climb up the tree, you can climb down." No, Grandma, I can't. I don't know how, and I'm afraid." And then my grandma did the only thing a grandma can do when her 6-year-old granddaughter is stuck up in a tree. My grandmother, all 4'8" of her, hunkered down, leaping up into the air, transforming into a superhero right before my eyes. She grabbed a hold of that bottom branch, pulled herself up, swung her leg over, and then branch by branch, she climbed up that tree until she was one branch beneath me. Chrissy, honey, we'll climb down together, one branch at a time. You can do it. You're small but mighty, just like me. And then my grandma climbed down one branch. She gestured for me to follow. And I climbed down another branch, and she gestured for me to follow, branch by branch, until we reached the last one. Grandma lowered herself to the ground. Holding out her arms, she looked up at me. Jump, Chrissy. I'll catch you. I don't know, Grandma. It's still pretty far down. Chrissy, honey, I've got you. And that's when I took my first leap of faith, my first flight into the arms of my grandmother, my superhero. There are superheroes among us. We met some superheroes today. We met people who are living their dreams and encouraging others to live theirs. Kit, who spoke about the importance of childhood dreams, and they are. Who could imagine that the dreams we have as children might be the career paths that we follow or a volunteer project that we start to help others? And Rob, who spoke about the importance of creating and of contributing and community. It is true, there are superheroes right here. Nearly every superhero faces some sort of adversity, and they transform that adversity into power, those obstacles into opportunities. Kyle is a perfect example of that, taking an adversity and turning it into a power where not only is he living his dream on that recumbent bike, he is inspiring countless people all over the world with his perseverance and seeing and showing others what can be done rather than what can't be, focusing beyond what limitations we might see. Now, I emerged from that chaotic household and decided to take a very different path, one towards joy. So fast forward to 1994, and I had taken a very practical job doing cancer research at the University of Pennsylvania. I loved the job. The commute down to Philadelphia, not so much. The Schuylkill Expressway sometimes is lovingly called the Sure Kill, and other times it's called the parking lot, and it's aptly named, because what should have taken about an hour often morphed into more than 2. I needed to save my energy and my compassion for the cancer patients that I was interviewing. I couldn't waste it on something as insignificant in the scheme of things as being stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic. So I created what I called my anti-stress kit. For me, the soothing tunes were Sesame Street's greatest hits, and by very happy accident, Bubbles. Don't ask me why, but one day there was a bottle of Bubbles on the passenger seat of my car. I spotted it while stuck in a really bad traffic jam. So I rolled down the windows of my car, and I got out the Bubbles, and I started to blow the bubbles out my car windows. And I instantly felt better. It was amazing. I felt good. And have you ever had that feeling someone's watching you? Yes, I had that feeling, and out of the corner of my eye, I spotted the woman in the car next to me. And she had rolled down her car windows, and she was gesturing. It was not the gesture you usually see when stuck in a traffic jam. And she was yelling out. I could hear her. She said, "Hey, can you blow some bubbles over here?" Yes, sure. And that's what started it all. Ever since that day, I carry bubbles with me everywhere I go. I'm always packing. And I share them. And in fact, I've shared about 100 bottles of bubbles. So if you would get out the bottles of bubbles that were shared with you today, and let's just blow some together for a moment. Because bubbles do pack a superpower. Part of the superpower of bubbles is that when we're blowing them, we're doing deep yogic breathing. It is literally making us feel better from the inside out. And bubbles have the power to disarm, to charm. They bring us back to something simple and joy. Did you know that bubbles can be used to diffuse a fight? It's true. On the New York City subway, I diffused a fight with the superpower of bubbles. I've handed out over 500 bottles of bubbles on the New York City subways, and I do carry them with me everywhere. I blow bubbles when waiting for flights in the airport. I blow bubbles in the supermarket while waiting in line. One of the best places to blow bubbles, the DMV. You will have the best license photo of your lifetime if you just blow some bubbles first, because you'll be smiling and so will they. Who knew that something as small and seemingly insignificant as a bubble could pack a superpower? Now, something else I never leave home without is my free hug sign. This free hug sign has traveled with me the world over, and I didn't start free hugs. I wish I could claim that invention. Free hugs began over a decade ago by a young man with one sign, open arms, and one hug. And those hugs have gone viral in a good way. This movement has actually traveled all around the world. And the reason that free hugs are a superpower is because we are desperate to connect one to another and share some compassion. While doing free hugs, it benefits both the hugger and the huggee. The first time I participated in free hugs was in New York City in Union Square, November of 2008, just after the financial crisis. It was a super experience. People shared the most incredible details of their lives in that moment of embrace. I liken it to Wonder Woman's lasso of truth. Somehow in the embrace of a hug, people feel they can share their truth. Two of the most powerful hugs I've ever received are the following. I was walking back to my apartment after free hugging in Union Square. My heart felt like it was going to leap out of my chest, and that's because when we hug, we release a powerful brain chemical, oxytocin. It makes us feel good. So I was walking back to my apartment when I saw her. There was a woman splayed out on the sidewalk, a shopping cart filled with her possessions next to her. So I got out my sign and I approached her. "Would you like a hug?" She looked at me with skepticism. "You'd hug me?" "Yeah, if you want one." Her skepticism changed to a smile. She opened her arms and I leaned down and hugged her. And then she said to me, "Honey, thank you. I haven't been touched in nearly 20 years. What do you say to that?" I hugged her tighter. And when she was ready, we broke the embrace. And then I apologized. I didn't have any money to share with her that day. As a storyteller, sometimes I'm a little short on change. And she said to me, "Sweetie, that hug was worth more than any money you could have ever given me." So from that day forward, whenever I see someone homeless, if I don't have money, I've always got a hug that I can share. To this very day, though, the most powerful free hug I ever received was from a little boy. There was a group of us hugging, and he was on the sidewalk rapidly rubbing his hand back and forth across the pavement, and he caught us out of the corner of his eye. He asked his mother what we were doing. Now, to my relief, she did not say that we were crazy. She said, "They're hugging people. It's really rather nice." And then they were gone. A few minutes later, I heard the pitter-patter of little feet on the pavement. He leaped up into my arms, hugging me tight, looking me right in the eye, laughing. And then I saw his mother. Tears were streaming down her face. I gently set the boy down, approached her. "I'm sorry, I apologize. Did I do something wrong?" "No, I just can't believe what I've just seen. He's severely autistic. He barely ever touches me or his father, and he hugged you, a complete stranger. He looked you right in the eye. He never does that." She hugged me tighter, and she whispered, "You are special." And I hugged her and said, "So are you. So are you." We all have the capability to be everyday superheroes. It's not about taking a leap over the tallest building. Often it's about taking a leap outside of our comfort zone. Growing up the way I did in that chaotic household, and then living with my grandparents, practically practical people, I always took practically practical jobs and practically practical majors in college. And then in 2005, I'm not exactly sure what happened. It took a year of deliberation, and I decided to leave my full-time job and become a full-time professional storyteller. Yes, that's my real job. And within the same month, decided to sell my house and most of my possessions to start a volunteer literacy project in Belize in Central America. What happened next was beyond my wildest dreams or expectations. I never could have imagined the way the project expanded. And next year, I've been invited to expand the project in Kenya, Ghana, and India. I have no idea how it's all going to come together, but I know from experience, from persistence, from patience, and a little bit of pluck, somehow it's all going to work out. And if I can take a leap across the comfort zone, anyone can. I'm not special. I'm not super. I am an utterly flawed human being who took a chance, made a choice, and took that leap. I encourage you to do the same. You don't need to wear a cape or tights or your underwear on the outside. It takes one step, and that one step can lead you to places you have never imagined. Kyle said it so many times today, movement, make some movement. That roadblock can be an opportunity for you. It's possibility. So I ask you to do whatever it is you would do to make this world just a little more super.